Welcome to the Mastermind Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us for weekly sessions led by industry pros, where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. From heat management to site optimization, our monthly deep dives cover the technical know-how you need to succeed. And with access to our entire back catalog, you'll never miss a beat. But that's not all. Our members enjoy exclusive one-on-one sessions with veteran miners, plus direct access to special pre-sales and insider opportunities at Bitcoin Mining World. Ready to take your mining to the next level? Join the Mastermind Club today and secure your spot in the future of Bitcoin mining. Visit bitcoinminingworld.com or scan the QR code now. And now back to the show.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is John Taylor, and we are here at the Mastermind Club today. I am excited to share this episode because we're going to dive into getting into the Bitcoin mining business, what it looks like, what opportunities are out there, and how you can look at Bitcoin mining in maybe a different way than the bootstrap DIY method that a lot of us have built a lot of our initial Bitcoin mining operations. Now it's time to step into that next level, into an enterprise level operation where you can mine Bitcoin at profit, build your future, and go into it with a strategy that's beneficial not only tax-wise, but your retirement plans, and it just makes good business sense. So I'm going to give you a little teaser. We have an exclusive, never been put out there offer that we're going to be showing a little bit later. It is a mining opportunity that has never been put on Telegram. We haven't put it on any of our websites yet. This is, the first time that anyone is going to be able to see it. So I'm really excited about sharing that. But we're going to do a whole bunch of things before we get there. If you don't know who we are Bitcoin Mining World. And at Bitcoin Mining World, we're the super connector of the Bitcoin mining industry. Is this being recorded? Of course it's being recorded. We're going to do that. Wait. And then there's some other people who are here, and that is fantastic. So I'm just reading the notes, and they're kind of far away. My vision's kind of bad, but we're going to make it all work. So what does Bitcoin Mining World do? We're the super connector of the Bitcoin mining industry. There are people who need a Bitcoin mine. There are other people who need ASICs, transformers, containers, all of those things. We connect all of those people together, and we do that through education, podcasting, and events. We are out at all the conferences, all the events, and we are just connecting people. What do you got? What are you doing? How can we connect what you're doing with somebody who needs it? And it's been a great business model for us because we're different from a broker. We're a connector, and we're really about community. We have some exciting new things about our community coming up. Bitcoin Suits is going to be a podcast about how people in the professional industries serve the Bitcoin industry, the lawyers, the accountants. We have Jordan Guest is going to be hosting it, and he's going to be bringing on guests for optimizing your tax strategy, how to make your business more profitable, how to operate your business with less stress, less headache. And then Bitcoin and Humanities. Now, we're going to be working with Michael Kelly, and he's from Binghamton University, and he's the only university in America teaching people how to Bitcoin and having accredited courses. And the conversation was uncomfortable because he challenged me in areas that I'm not fluent in. I'm not comfortable about talking because I don't talk about them every day. It was an exciting experience. I welcomed the uncomfortability of the conversation because he challenged me to think different, to think outside the box, outside of my the way that I normally think. I really enjoyed the conversation. I cannot wait to share that podcast with you. We have a host of new podcasts coming up, and I can't wait for all of them to come out this summer where you will be able to enjoy them also and get your feedback on it. Okay, so what's coming up? Tampa, there is Bitcoin Day. It's hosted by Bitcoin Day and Bitcoin Bay. Those are two different organizations down there in Tampa, Naples area. And they're having a soiree after. So here's what's going on. During the day, there are panels all day about Bitcoin, about the foundations of Bitcoin. Some of the past guests are Bob Burnett, Larry Leopold. I said that incorrectly, but he wrote that book that everybody's talking about. And then there's this week, we have a number of panels. I'm going to be on one of the panels about mining. Grant Cardone's brother, Gary Cardone, is going to be there. A number of other panelists and experts in the field. And it's just a great way to connect and network about Bitcoin. Afterwards, there's a soiree. It is a black tie party that is going to be on the river at the River Center in Tampa. You're not going to want to miss it. Look, tickets are super cheap. It's not that expensive of an event to go. There's 250 people there in a beautiful space. There's a hotel next door where you can get good deals on rooms. Check out the link below, and that's fantastic. Next up, we're going to be at MicroStrategy headquarters at Bitcoin Day in Washington, D.C. It's right outside in Virginia. I think it's Tyson, Virginia is where it is. And it's in the end of September. So we're going to be, in the headquarters of Bitcoin, right? MicroStrategy. They're doing a lot of big things, and we'll be able to again have great panelists, great speakers. You never know who's going to stop by. You're not going to want to miss it. So there's many new shows. Make sure that you sign up to become part of the Mastermind Club so that you can stay informed, stay in touch, and know that we are staying connected. So in today's episode, I want to run down what we're going to be talking about. We're talking about the tariffs. And I was watching this chief mining officer from Riot, and she brought up some great strategies on how Riot is taking on the tariffs and the uncertainty, all the things that are going on, how they're navigating through that, and tips on ways that you'll be able to do the same. We're also going to look into an opportunity that it's a way of integrating Bitcoin with real estate. And a friend of the show, Tim Martinez, is going to be jumping on with us in just a moment. And then I have some really exciting news about how to turn MCFs into BTCs. And if you don't know what that is, that's taking natural gas, wild mining, and then converting it into Bitcoin so that you have one of the best energy prices in Bitcoin that you can get. It is a bear-proof strategy, and I can't wait to show it to you. So let's get started. I'm going to bring my friend Tim Martinez on the show, and we are going to get started with looking at a real estate opportunity. But to start off, Tim, how are you doing today?
Good morning. Fabulous. A little bit warm. It's like 90 degrees in my building because of the miners, but we'll get past that pretty soon.
It's, that's a good problem to have. That's a good problem to have. If you have Bitcoin miners heating up your place, this is a good time to be in the Bitcoin mining business.
Exactly.
So I'm going to ask you who you are and what you do in 1 second. But first, we always start off with the chart. And the chart is what Bitcoin is doing today. And I'm not expecting technical analysis or anything deep, but, this is our business. Our business is Bitcoin. And I don't know that we spend enough time looking at the chart. So what is Bitcoin doing and where is it going this summer? And why do you think that?
All right. Well, thanks so much. My undergraduate degree in economics is practical here. Normally I love charts. Now what I think I'm looking at is a 30-day chart. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay. So here's my quick initial reaction to this chart. Of course, it looks wonderful to the naked eye. It looks great. Anytime you see a effective 45-degree line over most of the chart, we're all excited. There's a little dip at the bottom, but that's why I asked you the term that it's on, and I learned it from a Chinese aluminum extrusion company, and from his CFO, and he said, "I hate this company because we never make money." But he said, I talked to the owners, and they said, "That's the problem with you Americans. You're too focused on the quarter and not enough on the 100 years."
Exactly.
So my suggestion in charting as it relates to our trade of Bitcoin mining is, it's nice to look at. It gives us a comfort feeling by looking at it fairly regularly. We love to see it going up, but practically, if you're spending this amount on infrastructure, we got to zoom way out, and then kind of remember that past performance doesn't have anything to do with future performance.
There, we're zooming way out.
It's good. So, practically, I think everybody knows that the last few years have been historic. Last year, but the big question is, what will the future hold? Is it related? And ultimately, how do we gut through all this infrastructure cost with a product that's almost completed by percentage? terms, and it's got so much upfront capital required. So instead of looking at a chart, what I do is I look at the big miners and say, what are they doing and why? So if somebody else is out spending hundreds of millions of dollars to get into a field, they've answered the do I just hold it or do I make it question. Good enough. That's good enough empirical evidence for me. And then the next question is, how can we cohabitate a space with companies that have seemingly unending supply of capital? Theoretically, they should be able to just clean our clock. So I think that's the heart of the issue for I think what your audience is can we do it independently? Sorry, I went a little long in your chart.
No, I love it. The reason I bring it up is because I get a pretty wide range of answers, and it's turning into an interesting study. So the study has just begun, and in the coming weeks, I'll definitely share where that's going. So, Tim, you mentioned that you have a background in economics, but please tell us who you are and what you do. Why are you here?
Yes. So I'm 30-year veteran in the commercial real estate space. A lot of it I make just off my personal investments. So as Bitcoin rose with real estate, how does it play into this picture? And I went to the last year's Nashville Bitcoin conference and really dug deep into the miners and the containerized miners, and used it to compare to real estate ownership. And of course, the entry cost to those very efficient boxes, sea containers, with all the mechanical solved for you, is a wonderful convenience, let's call it. But my takeaway from it is in commercial real estate, we have some other advantages that maybe offset some of that convenience. Number one is my practice revolves around finding orphan properties in obsolete industries and locations. And the reason why is because the footprint is so small for Bitcoin mining. The enemy prior to a year ago was the noise. And it got Bitcoin mining got a black eye with industrial scale news reports. But my platform was, can I take a urban facility and customize and be more efficient potentially than a scaled miner? That's a quantum leap. And I didn't find much in the literature, because those who had the funds could just go ahead and chase after cheap electricity, and there was low-hanging fruit. Okay, but now after doing the full research and doing initial testing, I'm still confident that there are former restaurants, there are former libraries, auto dealerships in rural areas that we can bring the electricity to and become more efficient. And that last statement was greatly augmented at this year's convention in Las Vegas, specifically at the pre-show that Bitmain sponsored, where they introduced their new S23. Now, this is what makes our world spin, is that when a institutional grade investor is advertising their average is 16 joules per terahash, but S23 comes out at 9.5. So really a game changer, and it forces us to go back to our equations and say, wait a minute here, if I had a high density solution, i.e. it doesn't take more than 3 square feet, and you can put 14 of them in a rack, you got next to no footprint and extremely condensed requirements for the structure. Literally, we can put these products in the smallest of spaces as efficiently as an institutional miner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, You're working on, in the location that you're in right now, you're working on one of those projects, and it's really cutting edge. Do you want to share a little bit about it?
Sure. The facility I'm in is a former bank building. It literally, there'll be horse and carriage running by every once in a while. The average traffic is a golf cart. Okay. There was no practical future for a wonderful facility just in the wrong place. So, the good news is that through some governmental actions in the last few years, there's been movements to bring fiber optic, for example, to the rural communities. So this building came with fiber optic. I don't need it, but I sure like it. And here's the other fun part. I see some of the videos, of other states where they talk about bringing in three-phase power and the benefits of deregulated states. Okay. Well, let me give you the opposite of that. I'm in Wisconsin, and the Wisconsin Public Service, one of our three largest, I think it is, maybe two, was willing to bring in the three-phase power directly to my building and place a transformer at no cost to me. Now, in another state, that could be $250,000 if you can get it at all. So the need to chase substations in is somewhat mitigated by that fact. Okay. Then of course the next thing is, well, what do you pay for the electricity? Well, in my case, in this bank building, I got 7.2 cents right now, without, with still some room to work on that by filling in the rest of the capacity. But to answer your question, I got a great concrete and steel structure. There's no wood to it. Very secure. It's a bank vault.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about wood structure in somebody's backyard that's going to be obsolete by, 6 months after you put it up, and all kinds of other mechanical problems. I'm saying, in this case, this is $100,000 footprint.
Yeah.
Now, my position for that is I can amortize that cost real quick over a single stack of miners. And we can do it over and over and over again throughout, in my case, Wisconsin. I can find these buildings in the most unusual locations. Labor is cheap if I needed it. I mean, there's not much labor to running, let's say, 96 S23s or 80 S23s, which is still puts you in a phenomenal return. So there's and we're in a naturally cold climate. So we're not trading, lower electric rate for heat, you know what I mean, which is, problematic when you're in an ambient temperature of 120 degrees, 200 days out of the year. That free electricity goes away real quick.
Yeah. And, you're paying 7 cents. So people might balk at that and say, well, in ERCOT, you can get it for 4.5. And it's like, well, yes, you can if you have 20 megawatts.
Yeah,
half a megawatt, for 7 cents. I mean, that's phenomenal. That's like a hosting price. And so you're very competitive for the size, and then the machine efficiency kind of makes up for that. But I think the big thing is, if you just look at dollar for dollar, the cents per kilowatt, there's some arguments to be made, but realistically, in a small project like that, that's fantastic. But the big advantage that you have is you're thinking, how can we make this real estate work with the Bitcoin miners to make one business that has greater tax advantages and greater profitability and greater security?
Without giving tax advice here, my underlying is the excitement for me is always, as I make a lot of my income from capital gains and off W-2 1099 type income. So since there's still section 168 and 179 that apply, theoretically, if everything stayed the same, an investor could, or I could, look at never having to pay an income tax again. That is a very freeing concept. So, we're going to touch base, just a little bit on that. But I do want to go back to a little bit another thing that was brought out at the pre-convention at Bitmain, and that is the notion that I wanted to get the videos, by the way. I don't know if you're able to get that video, but one of the guest speakers was a former governor and now works for, I think, XM Bank. but I couldn't get a copy of that video. But one of the concepts there was, very plainly put out that once we stop increasing the efficiency and we reach the top, the last moving piece is that heat reuse. And since energy in equals energy out, we want to talk about free electricity, which I think is somewhat true in some cases, but mostly overused. But the offset that incoming electricity rate with an outgoing BTU.
Yeah,
It's
let's
another
take a look
way
at that
thing.
Yeah, let's take a look at that property. I'm going to pull that up because I think this is pretty interesting. You have this property in Fond du Lac, and it's a 35 unit 2.7. So tell us a little bit about the property first, and then tell us how does Bitcoin integrate into this?
Okay, so now we're going to shift to subject property that I currently have for sale. These are some of the most popular items in the United States. I get a lead a day at least for somebody who wants to buy a property like this. But the overarching application here for miners is that if you wanted to, enterprise level scale something, i.e. a nice, 100 unit S23 farm, that's a concrete and steel structure with an entire unused basement. Now you're looking at a picture from, I want to say, 1970s or something like that. Why don't you switch over to that first one if you can? And that's a modern day, that's what it looks like today. So here's the fun part. You buy a building like this for $2.7 million. It has upwards of $35,000 a month coming in. So you got immediate cash flow to offset what the bankers used to consider a very risky enterprise of doing Bitcoin mining. So really, you've got a business within a business. Okay. So, the other beautiful part about this facility, besides the mechanicals and the cash flow, is that it's in what's called an enterprise zone. Okay. So if you know how to work that, you could be looking at 10 years of capital gains without being taxed. Okay. There's that's just a unique feature to it. But here's the other thing. If you stand on the curb, you can see the other secret. Now, if you look closely, if you can explode up that picture, you're going to see a couple room air conditioner units that are hanging out the windows. There are, maybe you can't, but if you were there today, you'd see that the tenants one by one have basically populated every fifth unit with a room air conditioner. And the reality of it is the previous owners have put boilers on each floor. Now, with current heat pump technology, the solution is back to the basement with Bitcoin mining. Add a compressor. Those pipes can be used for both heat and cold. Okay, so you're solving two problems at once. I'm working with a company out of Milwaukee called Nakata Engineering, and they have the products, they have the engineers. It's a solvable problem. They're also bringing for my bank building and for this, potential grants and energy rebates, not only to buy the building, buy the capital equipment, but also to offset any operational things. So, I think that it's got a real interesting application for a sustainable low-income housing project. That's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and I think, we're looking at this property. Let's see if I can pull it up here, and we'll go over there. What I like is that you're looking at the Bitcoin business as not just how many Bitcoin can you make and what does that look like, but how can you leverage your best tax advantage, which is a huge part of owning a Bitcoin mining business. And it's more strategic in what does your position look like in 5 to 10 years? And that forward thinking is, you talked earlier about what are the big guys doing? The big guys are doing exactly what you're doing. they're buying real estate, they're buying property, they're buying Bitcoin, they're mining Bitcoin, they're leveraging AI and data center, they're doing all of the above. So the Bitcoin business is now much wider than it was before. It's not just miners and fans. It's a comprehensive, accountant, driven. There's a CFO, or there's somebody who's managing the finances to say, here's what our position is going to look like in a number of years.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. And one thing I didn't highlight is there are no fans to hydro. And I should probably back up a little bit and explain that this is a hydro platform. It's silent. You need the water, you need the mechanicals, but we wouldn't be able to put 100 air-cooled miners in that building. That just wouldn't work. But so just to clarify, that's the product that would go in there.
Yeah, and you're using the newest, latest, greatest. Definitely, you're future-proofing your Bitcoin mine. So how would the heat reuse? How would that work, and what would it cost to put that heat reuse? And it's not invented yet. It's not really made yet. So
actually, it is. Yeah, no, I can answer that question. I have the initial bids for the property, the bank property, and a max number for 5 million BTU of heat is around $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
And look, you can spend that on waste heat. Now, just think how many applications you can think of, because you're in the industry. You visited a lot of these places. How many of them are just wasting the heat?
Yeah.
That's your competitive advantage. If somebody doesn't have a practical, monetizable output, you're building you're essentially building an an obsolete mousetrap before you're starting. Right. Okay, so let me share the fun. My 100 miner S23 building platform could produce as much as 5 million BTU.
Mm-hmm.
Now understand, that's heat for a village or an entire area. Okay, I'm talking a couple of S23s could heat that building. Then you get into, well, who's the next largest user within a block? And you start saying, wait a minute, I don't have a Bitcoin mining operation. I got a boiler room. And you need to start looking at it completely different and saying, if you had a boiler room and if you had nearby large users, wait a minute, now you got a commodity. Okay, a long-term commodity that everybody understands isn't scared of it. Okay, you could also have what's called, you've heard of the power purchase agreements. Well, here you just have a heat purchase agreement. It's basically a form of, you're using power nonetheless, but the point is you got something that's monetizable that I think lenders will be more comfortable with being able to underwrite.
And just to clarify, you're in middle Wisconsin. I'm in southern Wisconsin.
Yep.
And winter lasts 7 months, maybe
Yep.
8. I mean, we have the heat on most of the year. It's something that we use a lot of, even on these mild winters where we're not getting a lot of snow. The heat's on from October until May at some levels. We have a couple of warm days where we open up all the windows and we all wear shorts.
Yeah, that's right.
Warm,
we
warm, I mean, yeah, 58 degrees is warm for us up here. So all these people in the south, they have the complete opposite. They
That's
turn
right.
on their heat, 2 or 3 months out of the year. So the heat is really useful. There's models that do this. There's models in the Netherlands and in Scandinavia that use heat as a commodity. Exactly. And they're using the Bitcoin miners to produce that heat. So the model is there. It's just how can we adapt that to Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, all these places that really need it.
Yep, you got it. I'm not inventing anything. I am doing the exact same thing and looking at somebody else's model and just adapting it to what I call it, what I previously said, the orphan real estate. Now, if you've ever bought commercial real estate, and you want to go buy what's called a dark building or a building that's going dark, forget it. The insurers will be all over you. You're what would be $2,000 for insurance would be $60,000 for insurance. But I put together a 10 miner package that you can run on 240. I can pop that into a client's building and they got a tenant. You're no longer vacant. And don't even get me started on getting the electricity down when they're at 10 to 12 cents for electricity, and I can move that down to 7 cents. I'm talking we can put these packages in any building and take the cost of real estate completely out.
Yep. And I love the way that you're thinking different, and I would love if you're watching the show, if you'd like to connect with Tim, put a comment in the chat. Let's connect. Let's make sure that Tim can talk about your real estate project, what you have. Do you have a building? Do you have a place? And this is part of the wild mining. This is because you're going into the areas that are not commonly used. Central Wisconsin, there's one big 30 megawatt up in Fond du Lac. The brothers have that, the Pearls. But other than that, it's pretty scarce. There's not a lot happening in that area, but you have good power. You have buildings that can support it, and you have communities that are willing to bring it in. And that's what that innovation you're making it happen. I appreciate that.
Let me hit that last example that you used, because I've had the good opportunity along with you, the Minnesota mine. But let's face it, if you're not in this business in the last year, almost a lot of those miners are populated with S19s or below, and their efficiencies are basically at the end of their life. And the theory always is, well, we can use inefficient miners for, when I got free electricity. But now, a different gear moved in the equation once you get to that mindset. And I think that the thing is that people are afraid to get into the industry because they say, well, these guys have been at it for a long time. Yeah, but when you condense down that one of the new S23s are going to take the place of 11 of those S19s, wait a minute. I think the whole game just changed.
Yeah.
I'm
going to talk about a couple of mines, and the one caveat of those new projects that we are going to be showing a little bit later is that all the machines have to be new. They have to be like a 21 plus, 21 Pro or above, 234 terahash or above. They have to be new. The reason is because we work with S19s and experienced Bitcoin miners who buy 3,000 of them, and they're putting them into an enterprise level project. They are the perfect candidate for the S19. These smaller projects where we're putting in 10, 20, or even like 1 megawatt where there's 300 of them, those are not the places for the used machines and to scrap it together. They just, too many problems, and it's not a passive use of income. So that's definitely, we're going to take a look at these. Stick around. Do you want to take a look at these with us?
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's do it. So we're going to take a look. I'm going to play a little slideshow. So I'm going to just kind of pop you off for 1 second, then I'll bring you back and we'll walk through this next site. Okay.
Okay.
Hang tight. All right. So I'm going to show you a couple of wild mining sites that we have. There we go. The screen was on. I didn't realize that. I don't have to switch it over. Makes it easy. So we're all about MCF to BTCs. So that's turning natural gas into Bitcoin. We feel it's the future of Bitcoin mining because there's incredible opportunities. If you don't know, there's flares across the country. Right now there's more than 6,300 gas flares burning. Gas flares are burning because there's either gas on top of the oil, and they have to burn that off. It's associated gas, or there's stranded gas, or it's just sour and can't go to market. There's a number of different reasons. So when we look at how does Bitcoin get to this number, how does it get with that extra zero at the end into that 1 million mark? It is through the innovation like Tim is talking about, and the innovation in wild mining into the oil and gas. Bitcoin mining world is going to go right over there. There we go. is working with oil and gas producers and the Bitcoin mining industry to bring this wild mining, to market. And so when you're partnering with the oil and gas industry versus negotiating a PPA, power purchase agreement, there's less bureaucracy. There are permitting that has to happen on the oil and gas side. It is significantly quicker than most negotiations with a PPA with an electric company. We can get permitting done inside of 4 months in most cases. And in some cases, permitting is not even needed. You're dealing with a small oil and gas company rather than, a giant electrical, company that really just doesn't want to talk to you about your 1 megawatt project. So wild mining, we believe, is the future of Bitcoin mining. So gas is a little different. Gas is natural. So it's not a consistent thing. It doesn't come through the electrical wires in a consistent fashion. It's dirty, volatile, and the earth moves. And so it changes the way that gas works. A good gas mine, whoa, hey, Tim, let me turn you back. There we go. All right. A good gas mine is going to run 92% of the time. There's a lot of downtime for maintenance. So the gensets that create the electricity, they need repair, they need maintenance. Once a month, they have to have oil changes, spark plug changes. Every 6 months or so, right around there, they have to do a top end rebuild and then a full rebuild a big rebuild on the 1 year mark. So they need a little bit more work than just plugging in a transformer and electricity. And the gas is in remote areas. So here's the advantages. When you have a gas mine, you are making money when everybody has to shut down for being not profitable. It's bear proof because when the bear markets hit, gas mines are still profitable. They're still making Bitcoin for significantly cheaper than it costs to buy Bitcoin. And that is the most profitable future-proof BTC mining available. And you're locking in your manufacturing costs for the future. So electrical costs are going to go up. If AI gets 100 times more, in the world, there's 100 times more use for it in the next 10 years, but it becomes 10 times more efficient. There's still a 10x difference of how much need there will be, supply and demand. So the electrical costs that we're talking about, like Tim's 7 cents that he's talking about, the norm is going to be much higher as we move forward in the coming years, because there's going to be efficiencies, but there's going to be a heck of a lot more demand on the electrical grid. So when you're locking in these oil and gas mines, you're really locking in manufacturing costs at today's prices 4 or 5 years from now, which 5 years from now, you're going to say, wish I would have bought that mine. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to bring Tim back on. So this right here, Tim, is a property that we have in Oklahoma, and it's a 2 megawatt site. I'm really excited about this. So they already have sites up. The lead time is 16 to 20 weeks. You pay 3 cents power, but you have a $2 million capex for the site. So you're still paying no matter what. You're gonna pay for the thing, and it's a JV with a 5-year agreement. The upside is that 3 cents covers all your maintenance on the site. If you do the math, it's a $7 million investment. You're going to make about 120 Bitcoin in 5 years. It comes out to be slightly more efficient than a grid tie, and it becomes very beneficial if you have the tax incentive. So what's your thoughts on this gas mine?
I ran an aluminum rolling mill in a previous part of my career. My gas bill was $450,000 a month. Mm-hmm. It went from $60,000 to 450,000 a month
Mm.
in 2009. So
Yeah.
everything that you just said, I've lived. That's why my hair used to be black. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
when you get that kind of change, that kind of just out crazy. And once you're in and you've got gobs of capital infrastructure, nobody wants to say turn off. It's not
Yeah.
like a home mine where you just say, well, I'm going to turn it off for 3 months. No big deal. Well, wait a minute. You got 50 employees, 100 employees. You got all this, capital intense. You don't get that. So contracting, being able to predict your future cost is gold at scale. Okay. So, I watched a ThyssenKrupp plant, a stainless steel plant, get built in Louisiana, and they came out. They said, we're going to build a stainless steel plant, and they said it's going to be $1 billion. Well, the first year went by, and they said, well, we were wrong. It's going to be $2 billion. And then after delays, in the final was over $3 billion. So they were off by a factor of 1/3. Now, since they were a big public company, well, they'll replace a few executives, and nobody's going belly up over it. And ThyssenKrupp will do great in the 100-year plan with that plant. But that's what I know of complex equipment. Okay, so that the real cost of the power will continue to float with the unforeseen, and the more mechanics you put in, the more unforeseen there is. But look, anytime you can get an efficiency up front. In mining, a year or two of operating more efficient than everybody else is just enough time you need to prove to everybody that it's a good it's a good sustainable business. You get a little forgiveness in that period when you're building, because you've got an initial advantage, and our times are compressed. It's not a 30-year thing. It's survive for 2 years, make your investment back, and then the rest is profit. It's got some real legs from that standpoint.
Yeah, and locking in that, whenever you can lock in a power cost for that low for that long, you're going to have an advantage. We're on this curve, between now and 2031, we're on this curve where the value of Bitcoin is going to go way up very fast, and then it's going to plateau. It's like the technology S curve that a lot of people are talking about. And
let's hope and pray. You're right.
Well, if you lock in your prices on the same
cost, it's the Bitcoin that I'm talking about. Even talking with the vendors, sometimes I think they kind of get to, well, I don't know why you're buying this equipment. And I said, well, it's sure not for today's Bitcoin price.
Yeah.
Even though it's an all-time high, the answer is it has to be more for the producers, because they're not making enough money to sustain so to your other prediction that it's going to be worth a lot more. That kind of is the underlying of why we're here.
Yeah, it's buying your costs, getting your manufacturing costs in at today's prices.
Right.
Is the name of the game in Bitcoin mining. And if you to your point earlier, you talked about other the big guys, the big Bitcoin mining companies. What they're doing is they're building their infrastructure so that they can be competitive 5-10 years from now, because that's when we're in the middle of the biggest change in human history with AI, and AI takes electricity, and it's a direct competitor to Bitcoin, and it may be as a competitor, it may be something that supports and complements and creates innovation.
John, I want to comment a little bit on that, because I don't see it in the online videos, etc., and that trade off between holding and mining, and you touched on a few of them, but yes, we are betting that there's going to be a business here, no matter what happens to Bitcoin, whether it's data center development, but my core at the end, when in my quietest moments, and I say, why have all this capital? And the answer is that nobody needs to be a prediction wizard to say electrification is the future. So, in the next part of that is, well, why don't we just go buy some machine shops that have three-phase power in them already, and save a big part of our cost. And that is a real possibility. Then the flip side of it is, well, if you come to a average machine shop and let's say it's $500,000, well, with some as you say, I don't want to minimize, because this issue of transformers and bringing in electricity, it's both costly, but more importantly, it's time consuming. You can have a year runway on just getting the bids in, for crying out loud. But so my point is that there's always a use for high voltage three-phase power in America. So no matter what happens with Bitcoin, if we're all wrong, the answer is we'll find a use and an application that'll pay for that infrastructure.
Yep. So I want to jump into this next one. This is I'm really excited about this. I'm going to go ahead and pop myself over. So this is the first time you're hearing about this. This is a very unique opportunity, and it's a way to partner with an oil and gas company. So your return on it is going to be the same as most other mines. As far as oil and gas, you're going to make 30 Bitcoin in 5 years on this. It's about a $1.75 million investment. But oil and gas, the oil and gas company will be supplying the genset. They'll be doing all the maintenance, and they'll be operating as the oil and gas company, giving you electricity. The huts are there, the containers that hold them, and everything is brand new. You're bringing in your machines, new generation S21 Pros, S21 Pluses, and you're installing them, and then it is passive income. There's a low monthly, I think it's $2,000, and that's the monthly management that covers repairs, L1 repairs, 24/7 monitoring, swapping out machines, sending them to the repair center. If you have, let's say you have the Pros, you're going to have a solid machine in a clean environment that is really going to have low maintenance over the first few years. The huge tax advantage that's available for this really puts you in a really great position. But then just having that passive income is so nice to have, because you're locked into 5 years. You have almost no costs. You don't have that big electric bill. You don't have a $40,000 a month electric bill or anything. And it's really a set it and forget it type of investment. And as far as getting into it, you're getting in on the ground floor. So, we're talking about this this is really once in a lifetime. I think they're going to reassess the deal that they have once they put this out and get this sold, because we have a number of other sites on the same property that we're going to be doing this with. But what's your thoughts on this, Tim?
Well, I want to point out that I heard of Michigan's new legislation, and I was encouraged with Wisconsin when they put, I think it was $168 million of the pension fund into Bitcoin, and kind of told the public, well, it's such a small amount of what we have. And a few months later, they had double that. And I thought, our stodgy old state did something really right. And that's what I'm feeling about Michigan right now. And specifically, they're introducing legislation to preserve those gas wells for Bitcoin mining. So, it's strong enough to say they've got a problem with abandoned gas wells. Okay. This is an excellent solution that they're willing to step out there and create legislation. That's a pretty strong, indication from a state government, which you wouldn't imagine was going to be as progressive as they are. So that part of it's really, really, really timely, I think.
All them purple states are setting up or stepping up, So the thing about, when we get into an oil and gas mine, if people don't work with oil and gas companies, the way that it works is somebody owns the land, and then an oil and gas company leases the mineral rights or leases the drilling rights. There's all these layers of leasing and operations, and everybody gets a piece. And that's the way that the business is run. And in Bitcoin, it's more transactional, where it's, hey, I'm going to take a property, I'm going to put my stuff in there, I'm going to own all the Bitcoin, and I'm going to do all the work. Yeah. And oil and gas is set up kind of the complete opposite. So I feel like we're bridging, the two industries, like the way that they operate and the way that they work, and introducing Bitcoiners to, some new deals that could be done, new opportunities, and that can open the doors to other opportunities down the road.
Yeah. And then plug in a heat reuse, and, you'll really have a new set of income to work. There's a lot of industries that need that hot water. So that I know you got your plate full and you're drinking from a fire hose when you're starting something like this, but there's a whole lot of output value to that heat if you can partner up with somebody who needs that.
Yep. So once again, this is a 50-50 investment, 1 megawatt. We can have this up. We're inside of 12 weeks right now for getting this up and running, as far as permits and all the manufacturing. We have we have inventory in America for S21s, so we can get those in real quick. This site includes all the gas, all the maintenance, all your electricity, the containers, and all the maintenance on the generator and on the miners. You're basically bringing in the basics. We're going to set them up and plug them in. You can be a part of the routing them to the proper pools so that everything is very clear. And the other thing is you can put in the oil and gas company requires that, it's a 50-50 split. So half of the miners could be S21 Pros. The other half could be anything that you want. They could be any shoebox air cooled that fits into the container. It could be a script miner, any other kind of miner that you feel would be profitable. We have some models built out with different script miners, like the DG, this is the DG2, the L917, and the L916. How those work, how the power consumption, where the profitability difficulty travels over the 5 years, and what that could look like. And so if you want to see more about that, there's, my QR code is on here. Make sure that you connect with me, and my email is right here. We can definitely talk more about this opportunity and if it's right for you. So Tim, this has been fantastic to have you on the show today. I really appreciate your insight. And I can't wait to get up there. I know you have that cool fog hashing container, right? And you got some cutting edge stuff coming from Bitmain. And when that comes up, we'll definitely do a show from your location up there.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks for doing what you do, John.
All right. Well, thank you. And we'll see you soon. So, all right, everybody, stick around. We are going to continue to talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go over here to this one. And I'm going to play a little thing that from the chief mining officer over at Mara. And then I just want to comment a little bit on it.
That was a great idea. I'm all for it. I think it brings jobs. I think you get a lot of hassle out of the way. And I think we all want to build a better America. That is the start. We have to actually do it and allow others to follow. I think that the issue with it is more how the tariffs ended up playing out. So I think you can put together a long-term plan that says, in X number of years, this industry has to take an impact. You have to provide time for manufacturers to actually build a plan. Otherwise, America could lose out potentially. So I'm glad that was scaled back. I don't think there's not much incentive to react if you have no time and people are just going to scramble to find assets elsewhere or try and skirt it. People are trying to get really cute, like ship something somewhere, ship it again. Like, say you've modified it, let it sit in a different country for a minute. Like, that's not going to work either. So yeah, I think now people should be really considering where they are manufacturing. I think people are now a little scared and they will consider the US because people who are buying, like Riot, like others here, they're going to be looking at that risk.
Shannon, what are your thoughts?
So I wanted to play that. We got to run because the show's getting over and we're starting another show in 2 minutes. But the thing that she's touching on is, being safe. Put your comments in the chat. How are you feeling about buying equipment? Are you focusing just on getting American products, or are you going into getting things from overseas and playing the tariff game? How's that working out for you? We'd love to hear more. Put it in the comments. And just to recap what we're talking about, make sure you join us at Bitcoin Day on June 14th down in Tampa. There's tickets right here. You're not going to want to miss it. The Cardone Foundation is going to be there. They have like a REIT, Bitcoin REIT operation that they're doing over on the Space Coast. There's a number of people who talk about, the ethos of Bitcoin, mining Bitcoin, getting into the Bitcoin business, and just Bitcoin in general. So be sure to join us. And until then, we'll see you next week on the Mastermind Club. That's what we got.